Jai Baba. Today is the 19th of June 1973 and I am Dr. H.P. Bharucha talking to you in San Francisco. I come from Navsari, that's a town 140 miles north of Bombay, and I had the privilege of seeing Baba and being with Baba for many, many years. Well, I must say that when I was in college, in the late 40s, I began to have a spiritual trend of mind, and that is the main person responsible for that was my uncle who lived with Upasni Maharaj. You know, Upasni Maharaj is the master of Meher Baba. So through him I came to know something about the spiritual path and also about many teachers and masters. And I got interested in this and I began reading books on spiritual things and began going around India meeting many saints and sadhus and mahatmas and yogis and walis and peers and going to different temples and places of pilgrimages and meeting saints and going to many tombs and all that. And during all these long, long rambles, I did meet many, many saints and saw many, many miracles. But somehow or the other, I had never paid importance to these miracles. And I cut the story short by telling you that I did meet many saints, but one of them, when I went to see him in Bombay, I was a student of medicine at that time, and a friend of mine took me to the saint in Bombay, and he was sitting in a big, huge hall, and my friend and myself entered the hall, and he was sitting with a few of his disciples, and as soon as I entered the hall, he looked up at me and said, "You get away from here." Well, I just didn't realize why he was saying that, because I didn't know why he wanted me to get out. And then he says, "Well, there is somebody much greater than me who's going to take care of your spiritual upliftment later on in life. And so you go away from here." Well, I went out of the room, and I really didn't fathom his words then. But now I do realize that it was Meher Baba that he was meaning, who was going to take care of me in my later life. And that is one saint I met. Then another one I met was somewhere in south of India, and he was the one who really touched my heart before I met Baba. And he was really great, because one didn't have to talk to him anything about what he wanted or what he had to say, because he knew everything. And it was later on in life when Baba told me that I learned that this man was a perfect master. And he was one who really touched my heart. Well, I heard of Baba in 1948. That is, when I used to go to Sakuri. Sakuri is the ashram of Upasni Maharaj. And there I heard about Meher Baba, and that he was silent and that he was going for his new life. You know, Baba began his new life on 16th of October 1949. Well, I knew all about this, and that he was leaving and disbanding his old ashram and going away. All that I knew, but I was never interested in going to see Baba, because I was always interested in Godavari, the saint who succeeded Upasni Maharaj. And so I was always busy with her and loved her, and all my affection and love was for her. Then in 1952, I was in Bombay appearing for my university examination in medicine, and just then a friend of mine came and told me that Meher Baba is coming to Bombay. Why don't you go and see him? So I said, well, when is he coming? And he said that he was going to meet people on the 17th of April, 1952. That is one day prior to Baba's departure to the West. Because, as you know, Baba came to the West in 1952, and he met with that terrible accident. And he was going to give darshan to people. Darshan means meeting people in Bombay on the 17th of April. So I told my friend that I have an examination just a few days after that, and there's absolutely no time to go and see Baba, but I'll see about it. Then I talked to a friend of mine, and she was a widow, and she said, well, if you're going to see Baba, please take me along with you. And I felt, well, may as well go and see Baba, just it's a question of a few minutes. So on that 17th morning, the darshan time was 9 to 11 in the morning, and Baba was giving darshan at Nariman's house at Breach Candy. And we too went there. And we searched and searched for this house, but just couldn't find that house. And when we ultimately did get to the house, it was 11:15 in the morning. And when we arrived there, the door was closed and there was somebody on the doorstep, and he said, well, you can't see Baba now, the time is up. I was quite annoyed about it, having wasted 2 hours of study time, and here this man says I can't see Baba. So we said, well, go and request Baba, please, for us. So well, he went inside, and he came back after a minute or so and said, well, I'm sorry, Baba won't see you. Well, we didn't want to go away without seeing Baba. And just then, the lady who was with me, she said, well, tell Baba that we are followers of Upasani Maharaj. And this message was conveyed inside, and immediately Baba called us in. And I remember that small room in which Baba was sitting. He was in one corner of the room, and we entered by the other end of the room, and we went towards him. And though I had met a lot of saints in India, I had always met Hindu or Muslim saints. I had never met a Parsi saint. Baba belongs to the Parsi community, and I also belong to the same community. So normally when we go to see these saints in India, we used to take flowers, fruits, garlands, or some sweets, candy, and place them at his feet and bow down, that is, put our head at his feet. That's the usual way that we normally greet saints in India. And here we were going to meet a Parsi saint, and we really just didn't know how we were going to meet him. And we had not taken any flowers or fruits or anything at all. And when we went halfway through the room, we were very perplexed as to what we were going to do. Just then Baba did this. So we didn't understand, but the interpreter, Baba did this. So we didn't understand what that meant, and the interpreter said, Baba says, don't put your head on his feet. We were at a complete loss as to what we were going to do now. So we went towards him, and then Baba says, this. So we sat down, and we sat down quite near to him, and then Baba did this. And when he did that, the interpreter said, well, Baba's happy to see both of you, and he says that both of you are good souls. Then he did this. So the interpreter went inside and brought 2 pieces of candy, and one Baba gave to that lady, and when he did do that, she caught hold of Baba's hand and touched it to her forehead, and then Baba gave me the other candy, and I did the same. And then Baba says, go. So within 2 minutes, we were out of the room, and we completely just didn't know what happened. We were out of the room with that candy in our hands, and we ate that candy, and I went off to my college. And I must say that the first meeting with Baba was the most unimpressive meeting. All that we wanted to see was to see Baba, and we saw him. But nothing more than that as far as I could see. Well, I know from experience now that every meeting with Baba has a very, very great importance. Whether you realize that importance right away or you realize that importance over the years. With some, it clicks right away, and with others, it takes a long time. And probably I belong to that latter group, and therefore I didn't realize the impact of Baba's love right away. But that one meeting was enough to sow the seed of love in your heart. And I'm sure Baba did that, because soon after that, my search for God became more intense than what it was before. I began digging into many spiritual books, reading books, and began to meditate and do a lot of things which I had not done before. And Baba's already working. The seed of love, the love of God was sowed in my heart by Baba, and it definitely was growing, and growing rapidly. And then, that was 952. Then I saw Baba again in 954, and that was again at Nariman's house. Baba was there, and we lovers from Navsari came to see Baba. Well, soon after my first meeting with Baba, I would say a year later, not soon after, I pushed off to Navsari for a job there, and I was there, and there I met some Baba lovers who said, well, why don't you come to our Baba Center? So I went to that Baba Center, and it was actually a center for Upasani Maharaj, for Sai Baba, for Meher Baba, for everyone there. Because there were lovers from all different people were coming there who believed, some believed in Sai Baba more than, somebody believed more in Upasani Maharaj and some in Meher Baba. So while I began to attend their weekly meetings, and within a few meetings I got bored stiff of attending them, because the meetings were not up to much, and I wanted something deep, something within, something inner, something that would really elevate my spirit and soul. And I just didn't want those superficial things that they were doing there, so I stopped going there after a couple of weeks. And they came around and said, why are you not attending? And I said, well, if I'm going to come there, I'm going to have something serious, and not just chats and talks. So well, they said, well, you begin something serious. So I went there and we began reading Baba's books there, Listen Humanity and things like that, and explaining to them in Gujarati. And that's how the Baba Center in Navsari began. Then I saw Baba again in 955, and I must say that this was the year that I came really close to Baba, because we were called for a Sahwas meeting. A Sahwas means an intimate companionship with Baba, staying with Baba for 5 days. Staying means we were staying at Meherazad while Baba stayed at Meherazad, and each morning he'd come at about 7:30 in the morning and be with us for the whole day, and go in the evening, go back at 5 o'clock in the evening. So we were there with Baba for many, many hours the whole day. And that was the time when we really at least I got to know Baba very intimately. And Baba had divided these lovers from India into 4 groups. And I belong to the Gujarati-speaking group because our mother tongue is Gujarati. So we were just 200 Parsi boys, and Baba being another Parsi, and it was real fun, all Parsi boys. And Parsi boys, they know mainly 2 things, and one is that they know how to eat a lot, and they want a lot of mischief. And here we were all full of fun and mischief, and Baba really came down to our level to be with us. And I'm sure none of us felt that Baba was the highest of the high, or the avatar, or the Christ, or anything, something big there. We just felt at home with Baba. And each morning when Baba would arrive, he'd give us, usually in the morning session there'd be some talks on spiritual subjects like love and surrenderance and obedience. And we all used to listen to these talks. And if you read Listen Humanity, the first part of Listen Humanity is a complete description of these 5 days that we lived with Baba in 1955. And Don Stevens was there. He's taking down these notes, and that's what's later on published as Listen Humanity. So, in the morning session, we were always with Baba, talking on these subjects, or there'd be some musical programs, somebody'd be singing or playing. Baba enjoyed Qawwali songs. Qawwalis are Indian spirituals that Baba really enjoyed. And the morning session would be over by about 11:30, and then all of us would go for lunch. And I must say that most of us were waiting for the lunch break, and we'd go and eat there, and then we'd have a small snooze because Baba would call us back at 1:30. Now, I wanted to see more of Baba. I was not as free as the other boys there, and so soon after lunch I'd come again to the hall. Those who've seen Meherazad Hall, it's a big hall, and Baba would be walking from one corner to another very fast in the room, and I'd come and stand outside. Baba's orders were nobody should come near me at that time before 1:30, so I'd stand outside the veranda in the hot sun watching Baba walking like that, and then he'd look at me and he'd call me inside, and I'd go and sit inside the room, and Baba would be walking this way and that way, and my head would be moving this way to that. He didn't say anything while he was walking. Probably he was doing some of his internal work. And then at 1:30 the rest of the crowd would come inside, and when they came inside, Baba would say, "Keep your eyes open, don't go to sleep." This was Baba's sign for keep your eyes open. And in short, don't go to sleep while I'm here. And then Baba would ask everybody, "Is everybody here?" So I remember one of the days, one of the boys said, "Well, Baba, my friend is not here." So Baba says, "Where is he?" He said, "Well, he's in the tent, sleeping there." So Baba says, "Come on, let's go and wake him up." So Baba got up from his chair, and the 200 of us followed Baba, and Baba went into the tent, and Baba does this, "Don't make noise, I'm going to wake him up." And this fellow snoring away there, quite oblivious of all the people around him. And then Baba picks up a small twig from the ground, something like this, and tickles him in his nose. And this fellow in his sleep, he thinks it's a fly or something, and he does that, and he's still snoring away. And all of us want to laugh, and Baba says, "Don't make noise, don't make noise." And then Baba again tickles him in his nose, and he does this again. And then a third time Baba gives him a big dig, and he gets up with a fright to see Baba and 200 of us standing in front of him and laughing. Oh God, that fellow never overslept again. And then this is the human side of Baba. And then in the afternoons, because we've already had a big lunch, so we'd feel sleepy again. We means the general people. I never felt sleepy in front of Baba. I think only once I did sleep. That was much later on in life. So we were sitting there, and Baba would want us to tell him stories so that we'd keep lively and awake. And I remember there was a man called Ravikant Raval. He was a very old Baba lover, and he was a fat, podgy guy, and his face and his demeanor was such that you looked at him and you wanted to laugh. And when he got up to talk some funny story, everybody'd be splitting with laughter. And he really was a good storyteller, I must say that. And the way in which he used to talk, he'd talk in Gujarati, he never understood anything in English. And yet during his conversation in Gujarati, he tried to talk in French, Latin, German, and every other language, and probably he knew one or two words of some other languages, and he'd mix it up with Gujarati and make a terrible hash of it, and Baba would laugh and laugh and laugh about it. And sometimes Baba would put his hand on his mouth so that he shouldn't make a noise. And then ultimately Baba said, "For God's sake, you sit down, otherwise I'll break my silence." With laughter. If I laugh loudly, I'll break my silence. So you sit down again. And Raul would say, "Just a minute more, 2 minutes more." Baba said, No, tomorrow, you can continue your story tomorrow." And this fellow would sit down, and everybody would be wide awake once Raul got up to tell a story. And sometimes Baba would say, well, let any of the others tell stories also. And some of them, one fellow I remember, he got up right from the back. He was sitting way back in the back of the hall. And he got up and told us such a funny story, quite a, I would say, a vulgar story. And everybody enjoyed the story that day. Well, this is usually in the afternoons we'd have stories and things like that. And then during these 5 days, one day there was the poor program, where these poor people were called, and they were made to stand on a stand, and Baba would be sitting in front of them, and they'd climb onto the stand, and Baba washed their feet, then wipe them, and then give them money and some clothes. Well, in India, these poor people really received from Baba. And Baba did a lot of this poor work, I must say. Not only for the poor, but for the lepers and for so many people. Baba did so much. Most of these things will never come out, and never people will know the number of things that Baba did for the poor. And so we had this program once, and then during these 5 days, and then once when we were there, when Baba had the lighting of the dhuni. Dhuni means a fire, and the fire was lit there every month actually. And I remember this began somewhere in 1925. I think it was the 12th of September 1925, when the Arangaon villagers came to Baba and said, Baba, we have no rain. Please help us somehow or the other. You must help us. So Baba said, well, collect a few twigs. Well, we were talking of the 955 Salvas, when Baba and the mandali lit a dhuni, and it all began way back, I think it was on the 12th of September 1925, that Arangaon villagers came to Baba saying that they had no rains and they wanted help from Baba. So Baba said, collect a few twigs, and they collected them, and then Baba said, light them, and when they lit them, clouds began to come around in the skies and then started pouring. And they were very happy that Baba had granted their wish, and they went away. And for 3 days it just poured and poured and poured and wouldn't stop. Ultimately they thought that the crops would be all washed away and the huts would be washed away. So they came back to Baba and said, Baba, please stop this rain, now we don't want any more. And well, Baba said, okay, you go back, and the rain did stop. So since then, every month they light the dhuni over there in Meherazad on the 12th of each month. And while we were there, Baba wanted the dhuni to be lit. And I remember Baba sat there in front of the dhuni while it was lit, and he had his head covered with a white scarf. You know, normally when we Parsis go into our fire temple, a fire temple is a temple where we have a very sacred fire, and the fire actually represents purity, and fire has been kept up very pure over there, and everybody goes very clean and very nice over there, and everybody covers their heads. That's the ritual with the Parsis, so that no hair can fall over there, because hair is supposed to be something dirty. So Baba had his head covered with a scarf, a white scarf, and his long sadra. He really looked like a Parsi priest that day. And he was quite serious, and then Baba said, well, get into a long line. And all of us got into a long line, and then Baba said, pick up a twig, each one, and come and put it in this fire. And that twig that you put in the fire must represent one of your weaknesses which you want to give away today to me. So all of us scratched our heads and thought of one of our weaknesses. We had so many weaknesses. And we came each one in front of Baba and thought of that weakness and said, we're going to offer that to Baba, in our mind of course. And we put that twig into the fire and then go away. So that was one of the programs that we had during these 55 Savas. Then I remember during this 55 Savas again, that one day Baba invited Godari Mataji, the saint that I was interested in. And it was real joy to see Baba and Godari Bai sitting together on a platform, and all of us sitting there and listening to Baba. And Baba said at that time that she was the purest soul in the whole world. And he also said that when I was Krishna, Just as Yashoda, that is his mother, Krishna's mother, was to me then, she is to me now. And Baba was very happy to see her, and I remember somebody brought a lot of coconuts there, and one of the coconuts Baba just picked up and flung it from the platform to me, and I held it, and I still got that coconut with me. And the inner kernel has gone dry, and when you shake it you can hear it moving inside, but the coconut is just as it is. From 1925 I've got that coconut with me. That is some of the things that we did with Baba, and we really didn't want to leave Baba. And then one of the days Baba arranged a Qawwali program. Some singer had been called, and we had this meeting way up at Upper Meherazad, and all of us collected, and Baba was looking forward for this singing program, because Baba always liked these Qawwali programs. And Qawwalis are actually highly spiritual songs, and they have very deep meaning in them. If you can understand the meaning, it's really wonderful. Of course, I never understood any meanings that time, and not even now, because they're spoken in Urdu, a language that I don't understand much about. And you see, when they sing these songs, many of the Baba lovers get into ecstasy, and in that ecstasy they misbehave. Misbehave means they begin to dance or shout or do something like that, and they're really not conscious of what they are doing. And Baba didn't like this sort of disturbance, and therefore he said, well, before the meeting begins, the singing program, he appointed 2, 3, 4 heavily bigly built men to keep ready and look out for these fellows who get into ecstasy. And he says, if anybody does get into the ecstasy and begins to dance or shout or something, just pick him up and take him out. Bodily, pick him up and take him out. I don't want any disturbance. So I remember one boy called Pesi. He was huge, and he was one of the volunteers that Baba appointed. And he was sitting at the back of the crowd, and the program began. The singing began, and Baba was enjoying it and swaying from one end to another and really enjoying the program. And everybody was quiet and listening, and there were no disturbances that day at all, and Baba was very happy about it. Then all of a sudden, Pesi was sitting right at the back of the crowd, and he was waiting for somebody, in case somebody fell or somebody got up and started shouting or something like that. So we were all concentrating on Baba and hearing that music, and all of a sudden we hear a big thud, a huge thud at the back, and all of us looked back, and Pesi had collapsed, It was just the main volunteer who was supposed to pick up other people and take them away, he had collapsed. And who's going to pick up Pesi, that huge, hefty guy? And the whole program was disturbed a little. We had to pick up Pesi and take him out. So these things happen just like real Baba's humor. So this is the 55 Savas, and then we left Baba and came away. And I really remember how depressed we were to leave Baba and go away, because that was the time when Baba really poured his love on us. So much love, really. And he really won us by his love. There's nothing more than that. If I can tell you about the different saints that I met and the difference between Baba, well, there was a world of difference, because all these different saints that I met, they used to just talk on spiritual subjects, but they couldn't touch the heart, because they were not perfect. A person who is perfect knows your heart and mind, and he knows really what you want, and therefore he can give you just that, just a few words, and you've got a reply to everything. While a master who is not perfect, well, he can talk for hours and hours together, and yet he may not touch your heart, because he may not get to the right point, because he doesn't know what you need. And that's exactly one of the things that Baba says a perfect master must have, that he must know your inner being completely, your past, your present and future, so that he can react accordingly. And Baba definitely did that. Well, that was 1955. And then 1956, I don't remember now when I met Baba. I know I did. But then 1957 was the year that Baba called me to Meherazad. Every month practically I'd be called. And whenever I went there, Baba would be sitting with the mandali, and when I'd come in, Adi would take me from Ahmednagar in his car to Meherazad. And when I'd reach there, Baba would tell the mandali, well, this fellow's come, let's have some intellectual talk, because I always liked intellectual subjects. And so Baba would find some subject or the other, and we'd talk on that. And so one day I was going to Meherazad, and while I was going there, I thought of a question. I was wondering that each time Baba picks up a subject, why shouldn't I ask Baba a question today? And when I reached there, I embraced Baba and sat down. And Baba, do you know what Baba says? Each time you come, I've got to find a subject. Why didn't you ask a question? So I had the question ready. And I just shut the question and I asked him, who are the 5 perfect masters now? And Baba became so serious, and the mandali became very quiet, and I looked around thinking I had made some mistake. And then after about 2 minutes of silence, Baba said, I will give you the answer for this on the 25th of February 1958, when you come for the savas. And when there will be many, many other Baba lovers and many saints also there, I will tell you the answer for this over there. But remind me about it a day prior. So I was to remind God about telling me the 5 perfect masters. So, to complete the story, on the 24th of Feb, when we were there with Baba for another Savas program, I told Baba, Baba, you got to tell us the names of the 5 perfect masters tomorrow. And Baba says, yes, I remember. Naturally remembered. And then on the 25th morning, Baba arrived, and we were all waiting for Baba. And he arrived early morning, got into his cabin. There was one cabin in front of the hall at Lower Meherazad where Baba used to come and sit first. So he went inside, and the first person to be called in was myself. And Irwin was there, and Irwin handed me a closed envelope. And Baba said, do not read it now. When you go back to Navsari, that's my hometown, read it then, and do not disclose the contents to anyone. I said, okay, Baba. And Baba said, go. So I said, I want an embrace, birthday embrace. So he said, come along, and gave a good, nice embrace and a big kiss on my cheek. And I went out of the room, and I put that envelope in my pocket. And that whole day, Baba didn't disclose the name of the 5 perfect masters. So I wondered. And when I went back home after the service, I read that at my house, and Baba had disclosed the 5 perfect masters, and with the instruction, do not disclose the contents to anybody. So my mind began to work very fast. And I said, well, since now I know where they are, let's go and see them. So I wrote to Baba immediately. I said, I want to go and see the 5 perfect masters. And Baba's reply came very soon, saying, while the avatar is living, the 5 perfect masters are non-functioning. And there is no need for you to go to see them right now. When the need arises, I will pay for you, and then you can go and see them. Well, that was the reply, and so naturally I gave up the idea of going to see them. Now, though Baba isn't there, and I know where they are, yet I have no intention of seeing anyone, because I feel that having met Baba, the highest person in the spiritual hierarchy, there is absolutely no need to go to any of the perfect masters. And while he was alive, the 5 perfect masters were non-functioning. But when he is not there in physical form now, what happens? If you read the discourse on circles, where Baba talks about his different circles and 122 people in his circles, Well, in that discourse, Baba calls something as an avtaric period. An avtaric period is 100 years from the time of manifestation of the avatar. And if you remember that on 10th of July 1968, Baba said, my manifestation will begin from September 1968. So from September 68, a period of 100 years, that is the avtaric period for Baba. And in that avtaric period, the avatar himself does all the work of spiritual upliftment, and the five perfect masters are almost doing nothing. So we are just now at present in the avtaric period, and there's absolutely no need to go to any of the perfect masters, because even if they're there and you meet one of them, well, ultimately the work is being done by Baba himself. So there is absolutely no need for us to go to anybody. And today there are so many so-called saints in India and in the West, and I've heard the names of so many in the West I never heard of in the East. And they seem to abound as many over here as there are in the East. But remember, Baba said in God Speaks that there are only 5 perfect masters. There are 56 God-realized souls. Out of this whole creation, only 56 God-realized souls, and of which only 5 are perfect masters. The others are perfect ones. Perfect ones means they are also God-realized, but the difference between the perfect master and the perfect ones is that the perfect masters are God-realized and can help others to get God-realization, while the perfect ones cannot. They have the power to do that, but not the authority to use that power. So therefore, these 5 perfect masters are the only ones, and while during the avtaric period, if they are non-functioning, I don't see any need for any of us to go to any other saint at all. Even if he's a perfect master, there's absolutely no need. So this was in 1957. Now I remember I've forgotten to tell you something about 1956, so I'm coming back. Sorry for this. And 1956 was a very important year, because I remember Godavari Mataji, the saint I believed in, came to my house in Navsari, and she came on the 2nd of January 1956. And while she was there, she arrived second night, stayed on the 3rd, and left on the 3rd night actually. And while she was giving darshan to the people there, I got a telegram from Baba saying that he was going to come to Navsari on the 29th of the same month, that's 1956. And we were so happy that Baba was going to come there. And as soon as Godavari Mataji left Navsari, the next day we began planning as to what we were going to do when Baba was going to arrive. And we had a lot of letters from Irwin and Baba saying all the things that we must do and all the things that Baba needed and where he would stay, and we had to send big letters informing everything, all the arrangements, what we had done for Baba and all that. And we did a lot of advertising in all the villages and papers about Baba's arrival. And everybody seemed to know about Baba's arrival. Well, a few days before Baba arrived, the Parsi community, Navsari is the big center for Parsi community, and the Parsis don't believe in Baba. I mean, many of them don't believe in Baba, just like the Jews didn't believe in Christ. Similarly, the Parsis don't believe in Baba, and for reasons known to them. And these Parsis, when they heard that Baba was going to come to Navsari and that we had advertised and we were going to have a big darshan program, they were just angry about it. And they wanted to break up the whole program, and they started an anti-propaganda. And they had public meetings and where there were speakers and who talked all things about Baba, against Baba, that how could Baba be the Christ and how could Baba be the avatar when he goes to Hollywood and sees film actresses, and he goes to America and eats meat, fish and eggs, and how could he be a saint? You know, these are the things that the Indian mind has got in it, that the saint in India must behave according to certain fixed ideas that they have got. And if anybody does something out of that ordinary, well, they think that man cannot be a saint. A saint must sit in a secluded spot, and he must pray all the time, and he must meditate for hours together, and he must be very simple in his habits. And here Baba coming to Hollywood to meet film actresses, this was something that they just couldn't relate to a saint. And therefore they gave big talks and against Baba, and told the Parsis that we must break up this program and we must oppose this, and Baba is not what he claims to be. And Baba says, I am Zoroaster, come back. That was too much for these fellows, that was too much. And especially when they had their noses buried in the sands of rituals, they could never accept that. And the main things that the Parsis believe in is rituals. And they believe that fire is God for them. Actually, that fire is a symbol of God's purity. But they believe that fire is there, and that's the only thing, and Zoroaster is their only prophet. And here when Baba said, I am Zoroaster, come back, oh God, they were just hot. And they had meetings against Baba, and we had meetings for Baba. And we were planning a big darshan program, and we erected a huge tent for Baba. And these people were planning, and we were sending actually spies into their meetings. Our Baba lovers some of them used to go and sit in their meetings to listen to them what they were going to do about it, because we wanted to know what they were going to do. And they'd come and tell us that they are planning all sorts of things. Well, we said, let's see what happens. So I think this was the most unique darshan program, because in all these years and what I read about Baba, I've never seen or heard of any program where people protested against Baba. And here we were expecting a lot of trouble. And Baba was to come and stay at a cottage called Meher Cottage. That cottage belongs to a Parsi gentleman called Mr. Soma Desai. He's dead and gone long back. But that family was so close to Baba, and Baba agreed to stay at that house. So I wrote to Baba before his arrival, Baba, wouldn't you please come to my house also? So Baba said, well, I will come to your house only on one condition, and that is that nobody else, there is no other Baba lover should invite me to their house, and only under those circumstances I will come to your house. So well, I told all the Baba lovers, please don't invite Baba to your house, otherwise Baba is not going to come to my house also. And they agreed. Well, we made huge plans for everything, and Baba was to arrive by the 1 o'clock train from Bombay. And Baba said that about 5 or 6 of the mandali would be coming with him. The mandali are the people who stayed with Baba. And the lunch for the mandali and for Baba was to be cooked by the Meher Cottage people, those Baba lovers staying in that, and that's the Desai family. And the dinner was to be arranged by us, that's in the evening. So we, the Baba lovers, got food cooked for about 40 or 50 people, thinking, well, we don't know, with Baba there may be some other people coming, so we got about food for about 40 people cooked. Now, so we were all waiting for Baba, and we had planned a lot of things for the big program, and there the Parsis had done a lot of things against Baba, and every road they had written against Meher Baba, in big handwriting, on doors, on windows, on roads, on public buses, and things like that. Boycott Baba, throw him out, and all sorts of things like that. And we were prepared for the worst. And then some of these Parsis came and told my mother about Baba, and they said, well, if Baba comes to your house is you're going to get ruined completely, and so is your son going to get ruined. And my mother really thought that this man must be the devil who's coming here, and he's going to ruin our house. So I remember the day Baba was to arrive, that's 29th of January 1956. In the morning, I got up all quite excited that Baba was to arrive today. And here in the morning, she gets up and starts, bawling away at me and says, I'm not going to allow Baba to come into this house. I said, what happened? Well, she says, everybody's told me what's going to happen if Baba comes into anyone's house. He just ruins everyone, and he's a this, he's a that, he's a that. I said, stop all that, And I had to go to work at 9 o'clock. So I said, I'm going to work now, and I don't want all this rubbish from you. And I went for work. On my way, I checked, the final things about the tent and the stage and Baba's chair, and everything was checked, and everything was ready and perfect. And I went to work, and I came back at 12 o'clock, and I brought a huge, big DeSoto car, so that we could bring Baba from the station, and I had borrowed it. I don't possess a car. So I took that car to the market and got all flowers put on it, so that it's well decorated and beautifully decorated, I would say. And then when I came back home for lunch, that was just before Baba arrived, my mother had completely changed. I don't know how Baba had worked on her. And she says, well, what are we going to do when Baba arrives, and where are we going to put him here, and where he's going to sit, and what are we going to offer him for drinks? And I had never thought of what are we going to offer Baba. So I said, well, get some orange juice or something. That I have no time. I'm getting the car decorated. All that excitement. Baba arriving within a few minutes, and I went to the market and got the car decorated and drove it straight to the station. And there we were waiting for Baba to arrive. Baba was to arrive at 1 o'clock. And all the Baba lovers over there on the platform waiting there with huge garlands, roses, and all sorts of things. And I said, well, we must keep a chair for Baba. As soon as he comes, let him sit down on the platform, and we're going to garland there. And there we were waiting, and, just focusing our eyes on the direction that the train was going to come. And ultimately we did spy it from miles away. And I said, hey, Baba's coming. And all cheers of Avatar Meher Baba ki Jai, even before Baba arrived. And the train came and stopped. And we were waiting. We didn't know where Baba's going to sit in that huge long train. And we stood at one end of I think it was not the end, but more at the back part of the platform. And we stood there, and the compartment of the car in which Baba arrived came just where we were standing. And we opened the door. I opened the door, I remember, and Baba just stepped out. And he was beaming, so fine and lovely. And immediately one of the Baba lovers came and garlanded him. And then I held Baba's hand, and we sort of walked him away to a chair, and he sat down there, and then cheers of Avatar Meher Baba, and then everybody garlanded Baba, and then when everybody had finished garlanding on the station, that was just a welcome to Baba. And then Baba says, what are you going to do? He said, Baba, we got a car waiting for you. So Baba got into the car, and the mandali, I think Irwin and somebody else got into the car, and the driver drove them to Meher Cottage. I had my own cycle or vehicle, I don't know what I had, but I rushed there also, and we went to Meher Cottage, where Baba had already entered by the time we arrived. Now, the Meher Cottage people were so excited, because this was Baba's 4th visit to their house. And some of the stories, if you really want to know how Baba came to the first time to Navsari, and his 2nd and 3rd visits, it will be a very, very long time. And I don't want to tell you about all those things just now. If you want to really read those things, they're very interesting. Read an article written by me in The Awakener, one of the recent Awakeners. It's called The Archives of Navsari, and where all the details of these different times that Baba came to Navsari, beautiful description of it. So, well, the Desai family was very excited about Baba, and when we arrived, Baba was already on the lunch table, and the mandali was having lunch inside. And so we didn't want to disturb, so we stood outside on the veranda of the bungalow, and all of a sudden one of the mandali comes and says, Baba wants you. That's me. So I went inside, and I remember Baba had a spoon in his hand, and he was eating rice and dal is lentils, and he had that spoon in his hand. He had filled up the spoon, and just then I arrived. So Baba says, come here, and he gave me that spoon to eat. So, the food to eat in that spoon, and I ate that, and Baba says, go. So I came out quite happy that I had got some prasad from Baba. And then he called in other Baba lover also, and gave him the same way. And then after lunch, Baba called us in, the Baba lovers from Navsari. We were just about a handful of them. And Baba said, well, tell me something now, what are the programs and things? I said, well, Baba, there is a public darshan program at 2 o'clock, and it's almost 2 now. And so Baba had said that before the darshan program, he would come to my house. So my mother had not come here, and she was waiting for Baba over there. And it seems that somebody told Meherji. Meherji is one of the mandali who arrived with Baba, and that the Parsis were very angry that Baba was here, and they were going to oppose Baba and spoil the whole darshan program. So he had told all that to Baba. And when Baba learnt about this, Baba says, "I'm not going to come to your house." I said, "But Baba, why?" So he says, I know all about the thing that there is a lot of trouble in the whole town, and if I come to your house, which is in the street where only Parsis are, I mean, there's have to be more trouble for you people, and therefore I don't want to come. So I was so angry with Meherji that this fellow had to go and tell Baba, as if Baba didn't know everything that had happened, But the human way of looking at it, I said, well, that Meherji could wring his neck completely. Why should he have said anything about this? Well, Baba said, "I'm not going to come to your house." I said, "Okay, Baba." So, it was 2 o'clock, and I said, "Baba, it's time for the public darshan." So we got the car ready, and Baba came and sat down in the car, and we went to the public place where we were going to have darshan. That is just about a block away from the place where Baba was staying. And a huge tent, that could easily house about 3,000 people. And beautifully decorated platform and stage for Baba and a chair. And Baba right then went and sat on the chair. And there were about 200 or 300 people to begin with. And they came to Baba, and Baba would give them prasad, very casually. And then people started coming in, and thousands and thousands and thousands came. I said, "Well, what's going to happen? How are all these people going to get darshan?" Because Baba said from 2 to 5 and no more. So ultimately Baba thought of another plan. He said, "Well, let's have 2 queues, not 1 queue only." So there were 2 queues, one for the men coming on one side and the women in another queue. And the men, Baba would pick up something and the prasad and give it to the men by the right hand, and pick up with the left hand and give to the women. And we were counting in 1 minute. Baba was giving at such a speed that in 1 minute he was giving 40 men and 40 women prasad. That's 80 per minute. And you can imagine the crowds that were there. And just like that, fast, 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 just giving. Nobody had a chance to even look at Baba, or to give him flowers or anything. Just they had to take the prasad, and the volunteers would push them away. And while all this was going on, we had at the back of our minds about the Parsi boys who were going to play and create a lot of trouble for us. And they didn't arrive. And then midway between the program, suddenly we saw a band of Parsi boys coming, and the leader was a big, hefty, he's a big wrestler, and a lot of muscles on him. And they came along. And all of us, Baba was cocked up our eyes and ears to see what they were going to do. And we were prepared. We had informed the police, and we had volunteers and all sorts of things ready in case they did do some mischief. And they got into the men's queue. And we knew that when they came near Baba, they were going to either hit Baba or throw something at him or do something. So we all gathered around Baba, waiting and watching and trying to figure out what they were going to do. We didn't know what they were going to do, actually. And I remember they were in the queue, and there were about, this hefty fellow, this wrestler, was in the queue, and about 3 or 4 people before him to take prasad. And just then, Baba stopped giving the prasad and looked up at them, and somebody took a snap of Baba, and we got that snap with us. It's such a funny, peculiar snap of Baba looking at them. And then he continued giving the darshan, the program and the prasad. And after those 3 or 4 people who were in front of this big wrestler took the prasad and went away, this wrestler came in front of Baba. And we were just ready to catch him in case he wanted to do some mischief. But all he did was, he saluted Baba like this and went away very quietly. And we said, "Well, that's fine." And all the others were smaller boys, And all of them, they came in front of Baba, took the prasad, and went away very quietly. And we thought, well, the whole thing's over. But it wasn't. They were up to bigger mischief. And they went and stood right behind the crowds. And actually, I forgot all about them, because we were so engrossed in keeping the public in a line so that they could come to Baba in a systematic way, and there was no stampede and things like that. And Baba's giving at tremendous speed. Now, all of a sudden, our secretary, that is the Baba secretary at the Navsari Center, he was a bigly built man. He was standing near Baba and managing the prasad. And suddenly Baba stopped giving the prasad and looks up at him, who was standing next to him, and Baba says, does this, that is, go behind and see. Now you see, Baba was sitting on a platform, and we had, it was a huge platform, only one chair on the top, and we had put curtains all around Baba, so that to keep the sun away, and of course the top was covered by the tent. So, and all this was well decorated. And so Baba said, go behind and see what's happening behind. So this fellow, his name is Lapsiwala, he just ran behind the tent. And do you know what is happening behind? These youngsters, these Parsi boys, they had sprinkled kerosene oil on all the curtains, and they were about to light the whole thing and blow the whole thing up, with Baba on the stage. And when this fellow ran there, they had just about to light that match, and they had everything ready. And they saw this big man running towards them, and so they got frightened and they ran away. And Baba really saved a very, very bad thing that would have happened that day. I really don't know what would have happened. I mean, Baba could have got burnt, and lots of things could have happened that day. So Baba saved the situation, and none of us would have ever thought of what is going to happen if Baba had not intervened and said, go and see what's happening at the back. Well, then Baba asked me, what's the time? So I said, Baba, I think it was about 4:10 or so. And Baba says, 5 o'clock, stop everything. I said, okay, Baba. So the darshan went on. At 4:55, Baba says, what's the time? I said, 5:55. He says, get the car ready, keep the car ready. I said, okay, Baba. We got the car ready. Exactly at 5, Baba was sitting there and giving the prasad. And at 5 exactly, he just stopped giving the prasad. He stood up and ran, zwink, to the car and got into the car. And before the public could realize what is happening, Baba's already in the car. And then they realized that, well, Baba's left the stage, the platform, so they all rushed towards the car. And they all surrounded, thousands of people still waiting for the prasad. And they weren't going to let Baba go away without getting the prasad from him. And all of them collected around the car, and Baba says, drive straight to Mayor Cottage. How are we going to drive? There are thousands of people in front of the car and around the car. And then we volunteers had to sort of separate the crowds, and slowly the car moved. And we got Baba to the bungalow, which is, as I said, just a block away. And you see, the bungalow is there, and a very small compound, and a big iron gates in front. And then there's a main road of the city road that goes through the whole city. So all these thousands of people, they followed the car and came and stood right in front of the bungalow on the main road. And Baba said, lock up the steel gates, So the gates were locked, and Baba was inside. And they just came and crowded the whole road and completely blocked the whole traffic. And you imagine, that's the main road through the city, and all the traffic had to pass through there. And everybody shouting, Avatar Meher Baba ki jai, Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. We want to see Baba, and here Baba's inside. And just then, these Parsi boys, those tiddlers, that big hefty fellow had gone away. But these tiddlers, these smaller boys, they stood on a small culvert, on a small wall, and began to shout slogans against Baba. Meher Baba, show us a miracle. Meher Baba, go away from here. Meher Baba is this. Meher Baba is that. So while these about 10 or 12 boys were shouting these slogans against Baba, about 10,000 people shouting, Avatar Meher Baba ki jai. And their voices were completely drowned in that huge mass of humanity. But of course, it was a disturbance. And I got so ratty, I said, I'm going to give each one a rap and send them away from here. So I was on the veranda, and I said, open the gates, I'm going out to give these fellows a rap. And somebody caught me. I remember Lapsiwala was one of them, and 2 others caught me and said, Bharucha, you can't do this, it looks so bad. I said, let me go, I'm going to give these fellows a kick, each one of them. I was so angry, And just then somebody informed Baba that my rocker had gone away. So you know what? Baba calls me inside, and he is sitting on a chair, and he says, sit down here until I tell you to get up. I said, yes, Baba. And I sat there and cooled off, And Baba kept me there for 4 hours sitting there, I just hadn't got to go out. So And these boys were shouting these slogans, and I could hear these boys shouting these slogans right inside. And then Baba says, those who cheer me, that is those of you who cheer me, as Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, and those who jeer me, really none of you know who really I am. So they are forgiven. That's what Baba said. He gave a beautiful discourse there. He says that you can never know who I am, even though you say Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai and you accept me as Avatar. You can really never imagine, never know what that really means. I remember another time when I was sitting with Baba, and Baba told my friend, a friend of mine was sitting there also. We were at Meherazad, living with Baba then. And Baba says, have you had any alcohol ever? To my friend. And this fellow was a complete teetotaler. He says, no, Baba. So Baba says, I'm going to tell you what alcoholic intoxication means. And then Baba described, if you take alcohol, this happens and that happens, and how you roll and fall and this and that, all sort of things about alcoholic intoxication. And then Baba says, have you understood? He says, yes, Baba. Now Baba says, supposing you read books on alcoholic intoxication, you might have an intellectual understanding of what alcoholic intoxication is, but you would never know what that intoxication means until you put the alcohol in your mouth. So in short, experience is something quite different from an intellectual understanding. And all that we were shouting to Baba here as Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai, it is just an intellectual understanding that Baba is God in human form, that Baba was God, and it is just out of love and faith that we were shouting that. So Baba says, neither you know who I am, neither they know who I am. And since they are taking my name, they are forgiven. So we said, okay, Baba. And these little boys shouted for about 20 minutes, and their voices were completely drowned in these thousands of people, and so they left. And that was the end of the thing, so of the disturbance, I mean. But the people outside the gates wouldn't go. They wanted Baba. So I said, Baba, why not we go out and see them? So Baba says, okay. So Baba got up, I got up, and we both came outside on the veranda, and Baba puts up his hands like that, and everybody shouts Avatar Meher Baba, and Baba blesses them. I said, Baba, everybody can't see you from here, you know. So let's go up on the top floor. So there was a staircase leading to the terrace of that house. And so Baba says, okay, come on. So I helped Baba climb up the steps, and Baba came on the terrace. And when he came on the terrace, everybody could see Baba perfectly, you know. And there Baba is saying this, you know, blessing everybody, and everybody shouting Avatar Meher Baba Ki Jai. And everybody was so happy to see Baba. And then Baba said, are you happy? I said, yes, Baba. And then we came down, so sit down again here, you know. So I sat down next to Baba, and I believe many of the people went, but many more came. And again the whole road was blocked, and the police came in and tried to remove the crowd so that the traffic could move, and there was complete congestion. And then after about an hour or so, I said, Baba, many people are still waiting outside, let's go outside. So Baba said, okay, come on out. So again Baba climbed up the steps and went up over there and waved to everybody, and that was that. And then again Baba came down and sat on his chair, and after a few minutes I said, Baba, there are still so many people, what shall we do? So Baba said, let them in, let them come inside. So I said, well, fine, this is beautiful. So we opened up the big steel gates, you know, and that house is in such a way that there is a central passage, you know. You enter from here and you can get out at the back of the house, and there are rooms on either side of that passage. So people got in from one end, and they came into the room where Baba was sitting, and they just did this, and they passed away. Baba said, no bowing down, no touching me, nothing, just let them see me and go away. And they went and went and went and went, and this went on till about 9:30 in the night. Can you imagine the crowds that came there? They just passed by Baba, folding the hands, passing away. And then about you see, we had arranged a program that in the evening Baba was to visit our center. That's the room where we have our Baba center. Baba said, I'm not going out with all these people there. So we were all so sorry that Baba wouldn't come to our center. So Baba says, call all the Baba lovers, let them come and sit near me, and let them sing, let them do whatever you wanted to do when I come to the center. So do that in front of me here in Meher Cottage. Why should I come there with all these crowds? So we said, okay, we resigned to Baba's will. And we called everybody, and everybody sat there, and somebody sang, and somebody did this, and somebody did that. And we were so happy. While all these crowds of people were just passing in a line, we sat around Baba singing and things like that. About 9:30, Baba says, well, now everybody go for dinner. So we had arranged food, as I said, for about 40 people. And you know, from Bombay, there were about 60 people who had arrived with Baba. And all of these had to be fed. And Baba said, feed everybody who's come with me from Bombay. We said, okay. So we fed all of them, and we were quite worried. We had cooked food for not so many people. And when Baba said, cook, so at about past 9 o'clock, Baba said, everybody go for dinner. And we invited all those people who had come from Bombay with the mandali. And we had reserved a bungalow very near to where Baba was staying, and where we had cooked the food. And we took all of them there and gave them a good dinner. And after more than 70 people had had dinner, we, the Baba lovers from Navsari, we had dinner. And after we finished, even then there were some leftovers. And mind you, as I told you, we had cooked for about 40 people only. And after dinner, all of us were walking back towards Mayor Cottage. That's the place Baba was living. And I remember Barjor Mehta, he's no longer with us now, he joined Baba. Well, he was walking, and we were all walking, talking to about Baba. And suddenly he fell into a huge hole in the ground that had been, it was the foundation stone for a building was being dug there, had been dug, and he didn't see that there was a hole in the ground there, and he fell about 10 feet way back inside, all of a sudden. And we were all so, surprised to see him there. And then we hauled him out, and we really thought he'd have broken some bones, but he came out absolutely without a scratch. And then when we came back after dinner, Baba said everybody to go away home and sleep. And so we left from there. And people didn't want to leave even then. And I hear from the mandali that the last people who saw Baba was at 11 in the night. So you can imagine the number of people who saw Baba that day, right from 2 in the afternoon to 11 in the night. Now when we left Baba about 10 o'clock, we didn't want to go home, so we went to the center where we collected together and talked of all the beautiful things that had happened during the day. And we were a little sorry that Baba didn't come to the center, because we had decorated the center so well that day. And well, we were there till about 1:30, and then we went home and we just couldn't sleep, because Baba had said, come early in the morning. And I remember by 4:30 I was up and had a bath and shaved and kept and ready to go to see Baba. And about 6 or 6:15 I was there at the Mayor Cottage. And as soon as I reached, Baba was already on the veranda there. And he says, the first thing I went and he says, I'm going to come to the center just now. Come on, let's go. So I was so, happy that Baba really, we wanted Baba to come to the center, and Baba had agreed to come to the center. And I said, Baba, I've got no car. What shall I get? He said, get anything, but let's go quick. So I said, Baba, just hang on here. I'm going to get a tonga. Tonga is a horse-driven carriage. So I rushed on my cycle and got a tonga. And on the way, I met one of the Baba lovers, and I said, open the center. Baba's coming there right away. So he ran there, and by the time I brought the tonga, and Baba was almost at the gate there, waiting for the tonga, and Baba got inside. He says, get inside. So I got inside with the tonga with Baba, and there both of us were driving that horse carriage and going towards the center, which is about, say, 3 or 4 blocks away. So we reached there, and by the time everybody had collected there, all the Baba lovers had collected by then, and the center was opened up, and it was on the second floor. So Baba climbed up the small staircase and came and sat down on a chair, and then there was a huge picture of Baba over there. So he went up to the picture, and he touched the feet, that is his own feet in that picture, and did this. That is, he bowed down to his own self. And then he sat down on the chair, and we were all so happy. We collected Baba. And he sat there for about a few minutes, and then he says, let's go, we gotta go. So just then, something very peculiar happened. One of the old Baba lovers, a very old Baba lover, who'd seen Baba in 1933, well, this man suddenly came to Baba, and Baba was sitting on a chair, and he comes near Baba, and he points to Baba's picture and says, Baba, you are a thief. I mean, we thought this man had gone wrong in his upper story here, and we didn't know what to do. He says, Baba, you're a thief. And then suddenly he says, soon after that he says, you steal our hearts. So Baba gave him an embrace for that. And then Baba got up to go. And he went to the staircase, and just then we remembered a thing, that on top of Baba's chair we had hung a basket full of roses. And we had planned that when Baba would sit in there, we'd pull a string and all those roses would fall on Baba. And in the excitement we forgot all about that. And Baba was leaving, so when he went to the staircase, we thought of this basket. And he said, Baba, please go back and sit down on the chair again. So he came back and sat on the chair, and then we pulled the string and all the roses on Baba. You know, he's really the slave of his lovers. Really beautiful, just beautiful. He did everything he wanted, just because we loved him. And then we went down the steps, and we came back to Meher Cottage, and we were to leave with Baba that day for a place called Bajwa, which is a small village near a huge city called Baroda. And I think it's about 100 miles from Navsari. And Baba said that we'd all go on the 8 o'clock morning train. So everybody could come for that trip with Baba, excepting the Meher Cottage people, the family who lived in Meher Cottage. So they were so unhappy that they couldn't join Baba. And the parting was really very terrible when Baba was leaving Meher Cottage, and these people embraced Baba and cried, and lots of tears were shed. And Baba said, you should not come to Bajwa with us. So they stayed back in the Meher Cottage, and we went to the station. And when we got to the station, we had reserved one third-class car for Baba on the train. And about 70 or 80 of us, all of us got into the train. And Baba sat in a third-class compartment. You know, third-class compartments in India are just wooden seats. And I had taken a small pillow with me. And that pillow I had got specially made for Godavari Mataji when she came to my house. And it is a very soft, nice yellow pillow. And I thought that it would be helpful for Baba to sit on that. And therefore I had taken that pillow with me. And Baba sat on that pillow. And we all sat around him on the different benches in the car, and Baba stretched out his legs and put them on the laps of one of the Baba lovers in front. And then he says, come on, let's sing. So just then the train moved, and everybody, those who were not coming with Baba, shouted out, Aar Meher Baba Ki Jai, and we left. Now Baba had said that we must take lunch packets with us, because we were to reach that place at about 2 o'clock, and we would have lunch on the train. So we had taken a colossal amount of food. You know, Indian hospitality is something that you have got to experience. So we had taken immense food with us. And all that food was tucked away in that train car. And we left at 8 o'clock, and at 8:10 Baba says, I'm hungry, let's have lunch. So I was standing next to Baba. I said, Baba, how can we have lunch at 8:10 in the morning? Well, let's wait. So, you see, this is disobedience. But we really, in our love, we forgot that we were disobeying. Obedience would mean straight away take out the lunch packets and give. And I said, Baba, wait, it's too early to have lunch. And so Baba said, let's have some music. So somebody began to sing. And about 8:20 or so, Baba says, I'm very hungry, let's have lunch. I said, Baba, but wait, it's only 8:20. And then a third time again, Baba said about 8:45, he says, I'm very hungry, let's have lunch. I said, Baba, we can't have lunch at 8:45 in the morning. And then I said, Baba, well, wait, I'll tell you something. At 9 o'clock there is a big station on the way, and many people will come to see you there. Once we pass that station, let's have lunch. So Baba said, okay, we'll wait till then. Here, see how we disobeyed. And so at that big station called Surat, many people came to see Baba and embraced Baba, and things happened, and then the train moved further. As soon as we left the platform, Baba says, I'm having lunch now. And I said, okay. So we opened up all the huge basketfuls of sweets and food and God knows what all things we had brought. And everybody had a thick feed, you know. Baba also ate. And while Baba was eating, he'd say, come here and give me some. On that way, I think he gave me 8 times from his own food, you know. Come on, eat. I said, okay, Baba, eat. So then we reached that place at about 1 o'clock, 1:30 about, and they were all waiting for us. And they had procured a car for Baba, and a huge band and lots of people, you know, to welcome Baba. And then we took Baba out in a sort of a long, big procession to the village. And there again, public darshan from 2 to 5, and a huge crowd collected, and many people had darshan. And then at about 5 o'clock, after the darshan was over, Baba says, well, is there anything to do now? So we said, nothing particularly. So Baba said, he just walked about in the village. And there were small huts, you know, small poor people, very poor people living there. And all of a sudden he goes into one of the huts, and there was an old man sitting there. And he was so happy to see Baba. All of a sudden Baba just walks into his house. Baba always has reasons for what he's doing. And we were just watching Baba going from here to there. And then about 7 o'clock, Baba left that village and came to the city of Baroda, where he had been invited to visit a temple of Sai Baba. You know, the Sai Baba of Shirdi, there was a temple in Baroda also. So Baba arrived there, and they had a small program there. And from there, Baba was to go to visit somebody's house, one Mr. Patel's house. And nobody seemed to know where that Mr. Patel lived. So Baba said, does anybody know? So I said, well, Baba, I know him. Because I knew him because he was a follower of Godari Mataji. And therefore I had been to that place before. So I got into Baba's car and we went there. And from there we came back to the station at about 10 o'clock. I remember it was about 5 to 10 when we arrived at the station. And all the Baba lovers were waiting there, because Baba was to leave from Baroda station for Bombay again at 11 o'clock in the night. And as soon as Baba arrived, he got down from his car, and everybody was waiting on the platform there, and Baba says, let's go and relax for an hour. So we climbed up onto the second floor of the station, and Baba in the mandali, and only I got up with Baba there. And we went and sat there, and Baba sat on a chair, and I was sitting next to him, and the mandali sat nearby. And then one of the mandali came and says, Bharucha, now you can leave. I said, okay. So I got up to go, and Baba says, you keep sitting here, you don't have to go. So I was very happy to be with Baba. And about 10 past 10 in the night, Baba suddenly says, I want to go for a drive. I said, okay, Baba. So he says, get a car. So I ran down the steps, and we had a car waiting there. And Baba came and sat down in the car, and he says, you join me. So I got into the car, Irwin was there, and 1 or 2 other Baba lovers Baba picked up. And then I said, Baba, where are we going to drive? So he says, well, drive anywhere. Baroda is a huge city. And where are we going? So I told the driver, well, drive anywhere you want to. And we went from one road to another, and we really didn't know what Baba was up to. But everything has meaning, as I said. Now, it was, and I was looking at my time because it was nearing 11:15, and we were to leave it by the 11 o'clock train. And suddenly Baba says, my work is done, let's go back. So I said, Baba, what work have you done? We just moved in a car, what work have you done? So he says, you really don't know, I had to contact a must over here. And your car passed by that must, and I looked at him. This is Baba's sign of look. That I looked at him, and he looked at me, and that's all that was needed. And so my work is over. He said, yes, Baba, we really didn't know what really happened. And we came to the station, we arrived at the station, and the train came. And we all got into this, one of the cars there, And as soon as the train moved, Baba says, "I'm hungry, let's have food again." So we had already had a big dinner, and we had all the food left over from the morning lunch. So Baba distributed sweets to everybody. Sweets means candy, I mean. That's the way we call it. And so Baba says, "Eat, eat, eat, everybody eat." And then the first order that Baba gave was that the mandali, that those who had come with him from Bombay must not sleep the whole night. So they had it. And we were to get off at a mid-station, that is at Surat, because this was a fast train which is not going to stop at our town, Navsari. And Baba said, "Let's have music." So we again had music, and there was one of the Baba lovers from Navsari. He had been made to sing by Baba right from the time we left Navsari and arrived at Baroda, singing for 4 hours in a train where there's so much noise and wind and breeze, and it's very difficult to sing. And he's a very good singer, a classical singer, Indian heavy classical singer. And so he sang all that way, and he was not too well. And on the way back, again at 11 o'clock, Baba says, "Let's have music." So again he sang. And it was at 2 o'clock that we arrived at Surat station. And it was just terrible to leave Baba and go, because we had been with Baba for 2 full days. And the joy of being with Baba was something indescribable. And we all got down from the train, all the Baba lovers who were from Navsari, we got down from the train, and through the small window we were looking at Baba, and Baba sitting there on that chair. And the train was to stop there for just a few minutes, and we were all crying, and Baba knew that we were crying. I mean, crying, not shedding tears, but crying within. And suddenly, all of a sudden, I thought of my pillow, the pillow that I had given to Baba. And as soon as that thought of that pillow came in my mind, Baba had that pillow behind his back. So he pulled it out and showed me the pillow. And I said, "Yes, Baba." And then Baba says, "May I keep it?" And I said, "Of course, Baba." So do you know what he does with that pillow? He just had the pillow in his hand, he put it on his chest and embraced it like that, so tight. And that brought real tears into my eyes, because the thought that Baba was going away and that pillow Baba just pressing to his heart was like Baba pressing me to his heart, And I cried, and then the train moved. And that is the end of the 2 big long days that we had with Baba. And that was 1956. And then Baba went to Bombay, and mind you, this was the last journey by train for Baba. Baba never traveled by train again after that. That was 1956. Then, in 1957, I had talked about one meeting with Baba, and that was on 2nd of October, about the perfect masters. I've already told you that. And, each month Baba would call me to Meherazad, and sometimes there'd be these poor programs where Baba would be giving food to about 1,000 people or so, and packets of food would be ready, and I'd be giving it to Baba, and Baba would give it to the people, or I'd just hold it and Baba would touch it and I'd pass it on to the people, something like that. Sometimes Baba would be washing the feet of these poor people. So, 1957, a number of times I went to see Baba, and that is on 9th of June, Baba called me to Pune. And Baba was living at that time in the Botanical Gardens, and he called me there. And he had called only a few people from Pune, and I was one of the outsiders who had come from Navsari. And I was sitting next to Baba, and there was a Qawwali program going on, and everybody was listening to the music. And all of a sudden, Baba asked me a question. He says, I had read the God Speaks by then. The God Speaks arrived in India in 1956. And I must tell you something about that also. Then I got this book on the 5th of January 1956. And Baba was to arrive the same month on the 31st. And I thought that I'm going to read this book and write a whole summary of the book and give it to Baba when he arrives. I never knew how difficult this book was. And so in spite of my medical work, and I have to do a lot of work over there, so in spite of all that work, I read that book in 20 days' time, and I wrote a full summary of the book. And I kept it with me, but as I told you, when Baba arrived on the 56 on the 31st, and there were thousands of people there, I had no chance to even give that thing to Baba, that summary of the book. And it was only, I thought of that summary when I was in the car at Baroda with Baba. And the night, as I said, when Baba went for a drive, and I said, Baba, I've written the summary of God Speaks. And Baba said, it's very good. That's all he said about that thing. So, 1957, on the 9th of June, when Baba called me, all of a sudden I was sitting there, and Baba says, how do you think is the mind of a perfect master? How do you think his mind works? So I said, Baba, I think it's a blank mind. So I meant that he doesn't care for the world, it's just a blank for the world. This is how I interpreted it. And Baba said, a blank mind is an idiot's mind. So I said, well, Baba, I really don't know. And then Baba says, do you know, I'm talking to you. So I'm conscious of you. Then I'm listening to the music that these people are singing. I'm conscious of that. I'm conscious of everyone over here in this room, everyone who is thinking of something or other, I'm conscious of them. I'm conscious at the same time of all the people in the world around. And I'm also conscious at the same time of everyone on all the 7 planes. That is the state of perfection. I said, yes, Baba. Well, I couldn't understand what that really meant. That he was conscious of everyone at the same time. So that was a perfect master. I said, okay, Baba. Then the music went on, and at times Baba talked to me. And then all of a sudden Baba said, ask for anything you want. And do you know what I asked? I said, Baba, I want to become a perfect master. I mean, the last thing you could ever ask for. I mean, to get God realization is the goal of life. But to go beyond God realization, that is to become a perfect master and help other people to get God realization, is the highest possible thing that a man can reach, you know. And I asked for the last thing. So I said, Baba, I want to become a perfect master. Baba says, of course you can, but then you got to obey me. I said, yes, Baba. And do you know what Baba, the order that Baba gave me? He said,